Hello, 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 everyone. This is Catherine Melleron, and this is Make It Make Sense. So, I've decided today that I'm going to talk about something personal to get away from all the craziness that's been going on. I'm going to take a reprieve from that. Um, so, yeah. So, just a little bit about me. Okay, this is going to lead into what I'm going to talk about. I am 54 years old. I've been married and divorced, and I have a grown daughter and a granddaughter. And a lot of my adult life, I guess you could say I had more years where I was single than either married or in a relationship. So when it comes to dating, I have had a lot of experience, some good, some bad, most of it bad. So in 2017, I met a man, and we had this. I used to live in southern Indiana, and every year they have a fall festival. It's called Harvest Homecoming. I go every year, and I was there at Harvest Homecoming with my friends, and that is where I met this man. His name was Neil. And we hit it off and really liked each other, so we started dating. And then, after about 6 months of us being together, I moved in with him. And then, not long after that, he proposed. So we got engaged. So we were engaged, and we had already started making our plans for when we were going to get married, because we wanted to get married on the anniversary of the day we met. So that's what we were going to do. It happened to fall on a weekend. Anyway, we started making our plans for that. So we had a canoeing trip planned, and we went canoeing with some of my nephew and his wife, and then another couple. And during the canoe trip, at almost the end of it, our canoe tipped over. And I believe what happened, because everything happened so fast, that the canoe or something hit him in the head, and he drowned. He had already mentioned to me, or I was aware he did not know how to swim. He had a life jacket, but he had taken it off, and he wasn't trying to be reckless. It was just that most of the time going down the river, the water was like not even waist high. It was really shallow water. So I think he felt safe enough to take it off. And then when we got to the deep part, that's when our canoe tipped over and he drowned. And it happened right in front of me. It was absolutely horrible and devastating. And this was in 2018. So that was 7 years ago. And I have very, very limited dating since he died. And part of that was, of course, after he died, I wasn't the least bit interested in dating. I had to have time for healing, and I was going to therapy, and I ended up having to move around a little bit after that because I couldn't stay in the house that we had lived in together. That was just too many memories. His brother had offered to let me stay there, but I just couldn't. So I went and stayed with my brother and his wife for like maybe 2 or 3 months. And then a friend of mine had a house, and a 3-bedroom house, and she was looking for a roommate. So I moved in with her. And then my sister, I had lived there a little while, and I really didn't like it. I had lived by myself before. For a long time, I lived by myself, and I loved it. But for some reason, after Neil passed away, I had a very hard time living by myself. And so my sister was going through a divorce. And so she asked me if I wanted to move in with her and her kids. And her kids were, at that time, she had one that was a senior in high school, and the other two were already out of high school, but they all lived, they all lived together. And so she asked me to move in, and I was just like, oh, yes, I will do that. And that was in, I think, 2018, maybe, or 2019. I think it was 2018. And we're still together. We actually, the house I moved into with her was the house that she had with her ex, and she got the house in the divorce. And then during COVID, when we was on lockdown, We fixed it up and painted and fixed everything that was broken, and we put it on the market and sold it. And then we moved into the house we're in now in 2020. So we've been here now for 5 years. So that's kind of our story. And so basically, I said that to say that in all of this time that all of this is going on, of course, it kept us very busy with the whole getting the house ready, selling the house, buying a house, moving, and all of that. But the other thing is that my sister and I are extremely close, and we do everything together. So I'm never by myself. Like she's always my plus one to anything I'm going to. I'm her plus one to anything she's going to. And plus my daughter and her kids, we do things with them. And of course, my granddaughter. But my sister and I, we travel together. We take vacations, usually at least 2 a year. So I've always got somebody there with me. So for the longest time, dating just really wasn't a priority for me. Really wasn't. I am, and still am. I was and still am very happily single. But I think that there's something that's just innate in us that we never really lose that desire for companionship. And so here I am at 54 years old, and I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and just dip my toe back into the dating pool. And I've only been on one date, so, and I'll tell you about that, but I'm not going to let that discourage me. But when I tell you the story, you'll see why I said that. But so I already had a profile on Facebook dating, so I never used it. I never got on it, and it was just there. And so I went ahead and updated my photos and updated my little bio thing or whatever. And then, I started matching with people or whatever. So there was a guy that I matched with, and we started out with having really good conversation. He seemed intelligent, and that's very important to me. And it's also one thing that really matters to me when I first meet somebody. I think it's important to ask good questions, because what that shows is that you're actually interested in getting to know the person. So he was asking really good questions and seemed really interested in getting to know me and who I am and what I'm about. And I was asking him good questions and having really good conversation. Well, he didn't waste much time, and he just said, I want to meet you in person. So we decided on a Tuesday to go and meet for dinner. So we met for dinner, and I was extremely nervous. I had told my brother about it, but there were times when I attempted to start dating again, but then I would get cold feet. I was so nervous. And I'm a very outgoing person. I'm not shy at all. But when it came to going on a date, because it had been so long since I'd been on one, I was so nervous about it. And I would flake out a lot of times. I would have somebody interested in meeting, and I would just be like, I can't make it. So I decided, I said, okay, you're going to push yourself out there and you're going to do it. So I did. And I was really happy I did, because we had a really nice time, and he was very nice looking. The chemistry was really good. His energy was good. And so I really enjoyed the date. And he told me at the end of the date that he wanted to see me again. I told him I wanted to see him again. So I was pretty stoked about it. I was pretty optimistic. So throughout the week, the conversation just sort of started just slow, like a slow fade. So I was hearing from him pretty much every day, but usually only once a day I'd hear from him. So then I was and I texted him, and I just said, I've noticed that the conversation has kind of slowed down. I was like, when you're first getting to know somebody, communication is important, because I don't know you. I don't know your schedule. I don't know your life. So if you're not talking to me, my assumption is going to be that you're not interested. So we're both adults. You can be honest with me. Excuse me. And I thought to myself, I've only met you once. My heart's not going to be broken if you're not interested. And his reply was that he was interested. He had just been really busy. So then the weekend came around, and he was telling me, he asked me on Friday if I was busy. And I said, yes, I am. I have to go to my daughter's, because I'm going to spend the night over there, because I have to watch my granddaughter on Saturday. My daughter has a little side business where she sells like vintage clothing, and she does like flea markets and events like that where she sells her merchandise. So she was doing a flea off. It's called the flea off market, and they do it once a month. And so she was doing that, and they needed me to watch Maggie while they went. So they leave really early in the morning. So I went over there. I said, well, I'll just come and spend the night since y'all got to leave out so early. So I said, yeah, I'm going to my daughter's, spending the night, and got to watch my granddaughter tomorrow. And he was like, oh, well, I wanted to see if you wanted to go to dinner. And then he put TTYL, like he was done with the conversation. And I was like, well, I hope you're not upset because I can't make it tonight. I said, but maybe tomorrow night or maybe on Sunday we can make some plans. So then he said that okay, that would be fine. And then I said, well, I'll let you pick the place this time because I picked the place the first time. So after that, it was crickets. Didn't hear a word from him the whole weekend. And I never bothered reaching out to him either. I was at my daughter's, with my granddaughter, and I had gotten sick too. I had a really bad stomach bug. So I was dealing with that, and I was taking care of her, and and then I even ended up staying again on Saturday night because I just felt terrible, and I didn't feel like getting all my stuff together to go home. I just said, I'm going to stay again tonight. Anyway, and then Sunday was Mother's Day, and so we went to lunch with my son-in-law's parents, and we had a really nice lunch. And then that night, we went to me and my sister and her other daughter went to my niece's place, and her boyfriend cooked us dinner. So it was a busy day. It is about 10 o'clock at night on Sunday. We were sitting outside and we were playing Cards Against Humanity, and I get a text from him. Hadn't heard from him all weekend. Get a text at 10 o'clock at night. Now, if any of you have been in the dating world, you know what a late night text means, and we'll just call it what it is. It's a booty call. And he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm at my niece's house. And he was like, oh, I was missing you and I wanted to see you, or something like that. And I was like, huh. And I just kind of was like, yeah, okay, that's not going to happen. And I was like, I haven't heard from you all weekend. And I was like, no. And plus I wouldn't have done, even if I had heard from him, even if I was at home in bed watching Netflix, I wouldn't have gotten out of bed to go, because all he wanted, he only wanted one thing. And that made it obvious to me. So, I still thought he was a nice person, and I didn't look at him as like a bad person, but, I always appreciate people being upfront about what their expectations are, because you're not going to fool me if that is what your expectation is. If you're just looking for a hookup, I'm going to see right through that. Like, I'm going to know that. So you may as well just tell me. And that is definitely not what I'm looking for. And so I just was like, I think that you and I are on two different pages. And I even said, I wish you the best in your future endeavors. Because, I just think that line is hilarious. But anyway, so I just kind of stopped talking to him. But I told my brother, I said, one thing it did for me is it did kind of break that ice. I kind of ripped the Band-Aid off. And I said, I don't think that I would be as nervous going on another date with someone else. So here I am out here in these Dayton streets, and talking to a couple of people on the Facebook app. In my older age, I should say, old school, and I would prefer to meet someone the old-fashioned way. And I'm not saying that can't happen, but everybody does the online thing now, and I'm not really a big fan of it, to be honest, because I dealt with it for all the years when I was single. And I'm still single, but at the times I was single, I would go online and do the online thing. And I did end up, like, one guy I dated for like 3.5 years that I met online. So I'm not saying it can't work, but it's just annoying because you gotta kind of dig through all the BS to get to someone who's actually for real. And people lie about who they are. They put pictures of themselves when they were 15 years younger, or and you meet them and they don't look like themselves, or it's just a plethora of things that happen with the whole dating thing, and I just don't like it. It's a lot of work. So I'm just, I'm older and wiser. I've learned a lot through the years. So I've decided, what, I'm in control of this, because it's not even something that is top priority to me. It's something that I'm trying out, And so I feel like I'm in a lot more control because I know what I'm looking for. I know what I want if I find it, but it's not something that is like, I must do this. I must find someone. I don't feel that way at all because, like I said, and when it comes to the vacations, we've already got our 2 vacations planned for this year. We're going on a cruise in June. We're going down. I'm taking my granddaughter to Disney in September. So, we've already got our vacations planned out, and we are always doing things, going places. And so it's not like I sit at home looking at the 4 walls and thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I had somebody to spend time with. If I lived by myself, it would be different. But I do have my sister and my family, and that's my priority. And I find it very fulfilling. I really do. And when it comes to the physical, when you get a little older, when your hormone levels drop and you go through the menopause, that desire just kind of goes, so it's still something that is nice to have, but it's not as important. So that also is like another reason why it's not a big priority for me. And so we'll just see what happens, and I will keep you all posted. I am talking to a couple of guys that I did match with, so we'll see if anything comes of that. I don't know. But, I will definitely keep y'all posted on the adventures in dating in your 50s because it's really not fun. But, the dating pool gets shallower and shallower the older you get. So, and I'm not really interested in somebody younger. That never has appealed to me. So, yeah, a lot of young guys like older women, but that's not my jam. So, anyway, I'll keep you posted. And I hope everybody has a great day and a great week. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.